allergies are really f***ing with me right now, so I apologize if I look like I'm high throughout this thing. It's probably because I sneezed and we cut it out. It's gonna be a fun one. Hey, what's good, guys? My name's Chris.
I'm Jody.
And welcome back to the official WearTesters.com YouTube channel. Today we're talking about the last two episodes, episodes 9 and episodes 10 of The Last Dance. It's been an incredible ride. I wish that it just was every Sunday. I wish this was a show. This would be awesome to look forward to, almost like an NBA season.
I feel like last night's episodes were a letdown.
What?
They didn't hit me the way I guess that they hit you. I felt like last week's was so much better.
Nah, hell no. Per usual, I got a little list right here. So I'm gonna go over the list real quick. If we don't get to everything, I apologize, but that's just what it is. First thing's Reggie, then Utah, flu game, Steve Kerr, chemistry, new shoes, 96-54, NWO, MJ defending Rodman, media frenzy after Rodman, Scotty's back, literally his back, not Scotty's back. The last shot, the era that built the league as we now know it. Could they have gone for 7? Phil seemed over it. So first things first, before we go over any of the topics, why were you disappointed?
Last week was such an emotional roller coaster where there was like high highs and low lows and all the different kinds of feelings. And yesterday I didn't really get that. Not at all? I don't know if you want me to stay on topic here.
No, we'll get to it because I have a feeling it was the Steve Kerr stuff that got you.
I did.
Okay, so first things first, Reggie Miller. I hated that guy when I was growing up, man. I fucking hated him.
I just think it's so funny how, because you would think, hey, we're way past when all of that happened. You could be probably not as cocky about things, but he was still like...
Are you talking about Reggie?
Yes, like, I feel like we were the better team.
This is the thing that I've been taking away from just me and you.
Yeah.
We don't really have conversations like this until right now. I could definitely tell that you're not a team sport player.
Yeah.
Like, don't take this the wrong way or anything. I don't mean that you're not a team player as far as like what we do for work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in general, I don't think you've played team sports.
Okay.
This type of mindset, that pettiness, if that's what you want to call it, that's completely normal in a competition setting.
No, but I could understand going into the game being like, yeah, we're the better team, but to play
This is these guys' jobs.
No. What I'm saying is to play the game. Years have passed. You obviously lost the series.
Correct.
And to still be like, we were the better team.
No, hell no. That's normal. That is normal. And the funny thing is that motherfucker might have been right. As a viewer standpoint, besides that last final series against Utah, it might have been the most stressful viewing experience of a Chicago.
No, I will say that because I paid attention to all of the scores.
I remember the shove. I remember the shove, everything, and I was yelling so much. I was like, that was a move, Reggie.
But no, all of the games, like at the end when they would show the points, they were all only off by 1 or 2.
Yo.
So I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, but you had to have been there, like to get it. That's one of my takeaways from the whole thing, is that so much time has passed because I'm not one of those players. So like they hold on to these things because it's their memories, much like you and I would for something else. But I damn near forgot how good this era was. Like,
oh, you mean as a whole?
Yeah. We're talking Hall of Famers were cock-blocked from rings because of this Chicago team.
So what I thought was interesting was Michael Jordan's supposed to be the GOAT. And with how high his percentage was for scoring and everything, I was just expecting like way bigger.
That's what I'm saying though, is that Reggie Miller was one of them players. Like, you know how like players nowadays, they're just like, I don't even call them players. They're just like trash talkers on the internet. For all I know, they're just couch sitters. They're not actual hoopers. But like, they're like... whatever, just a shooter. Yo, Reggie Miller, him, Ray, these are guys that are known as just shooters, but they'll get buckets like you wouldn't believe. You leave a shooter open, you can tell because that is slowly how the game's progressed to where the game today is like that. Those run set plays for a shooter, these guys aren't shooters, man. They're running the floor constantly. If a shooter doesn't have the ball, guess what he's doing? He's moving. These guys were great hoopers. And they knew how to move the floor. You hear the director and like on off-camera commentary on the doc itself saying like, oh, these guys are playing chess, not checkers. That's what a shooter's about. A shooter plays chess, constantly moving. He sees all the floor all the time. He's got to know where everybody's going to be at so he could use them to get open. Reggie Miller was a fucking beast. I hated him. Hated him. They had Chris Mullin. Chris Mullin's amazing. They had Mark Jackson. We all know how smart he is as a coach. He was doing that on the floor. Rick Smits, we all hated. All of us. That dude was a giant tree, man. And Luke Longley had a hard time with that fool. That was a matchup, man. That was a matchup. Now, the second thing is Utah. This is where it starts to get confusing, is that especially for someone like you and even for someone like me where I've been through it all, they play Utah back-to-back finals. Unless you're paying attention to the shoes. Which series is it? They had the same unis, everything. It wasn't like how they changed up now. But Utah was another one of those teams like Indiana where like they had everything. While Chicago beat them that first time, that second time, I did not know if that was gonna... They had just had a hard time with Indiana. I don't want to say that Utah team was better than Indiana, but they sure as played old school basketball better than Indiana. Like Indiana played kind of new school basketball where they spread the floor, shooters, stuff like that. That's kind of like new style, or I wouldn't say new style, but like current style. And then back then that Utah team, they were playing pick and roll and it just worked. That whole Stockton to Malone, like that was all day, every day, all season long, those two. And then they had little pieces like Hornacek, and he would always say hi to his family, his like wife and kids when he would be at the free throw line, and he'd do this. Every time, and I hated him for it. I know. This is why I have these cool takeaways, because as a kid, they're the enemy of your idol.
Yeah.
So you hate them. As an adult, Reggie is amazing, but I hated him. Karl Malone, I hated him, but he's amazing. John Stockton, same thing. I hated him, but he's amazing. Hornacek, hated him. He's amazing. This is why the immaturity of a young person can sometimes get the better of them and stuff. And this is why, like, when people try to be like, oh, but you said this one time and now you're saying... People do grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And people do change. Their thoughts get more elaborate, or they entertain more thoughts or new thoughts to add to their own opinions and stuff like that. So it's just very interesting that like today's world is very much like copy and paste, like your quote, without letting you evolve.
Yeah.
You can't do nothing. You can't even have no fun and change your hair color without somebody talking. The good old flu game. It's so funny to hear it come out of Michael's mouth, what actually happened, because much like his father's passing and who knows what else, there's rumors that the Air Jordan 9 was a baseball shoe. That's why it's not a good basketball shoe. People are so dumb sometimes, where it's like, do you just make things up just because? Because there's actual facts out there that like you can like gather this information and know what actually happened. So this flu game, it wasn't the flu. He got food poisoning. And there's been books with this story in it before. People still want to argue that he was out drinking and partying and all that stuff. We're talking about Michael Jordan, dude. He'd been saying the same thing this whole time and nobody listened. Just like with the Jordan 9 thing, it's like they designed that shoe when the 7s was out.
Okay, but so how did they make a whole shoe?
No, he just happened to be wearing that black and red colorway.
I understand that, but not too long ago, they brought those back and it was a whole marketing thing.
Yeah,
the flu game ones.
That's my problem with this storytelling era of Jordan brand. It's that they almost feed into the lies just to sell shoes. And I'm just like, you just had the opportunity to tell the real story and you chose not to. The food poisoning game doesn't sound as fun as the flu game, you know? So I understand that, but it's the same thing. No, the Jordan 9, it was made for baseball. No, it wasn't. Is the Jordan 11 with a cleat on it made for baseball? Technically, yes, because they slapped a cleat on it, but that Jordan 11 shoe is a basketball shoe. They can alter things. Him going to go play baseball was not a game plan. Tinker was like, what are you doing? I'm halfway done with this shoe. What are we supposed to do with this? Same thing with like the I'm Back shoe, the Jordan 10. That was supposed to be the tribute shoe. That's why it has all his accolades on there. That was supposed to be the last one. And then all of a sudden he's like, man, I'm back. And then Tinker's like, the f are you doing to me, man? And lucky for him, Tinker was already sketching the 11. Just because he's, like his name is, Tinker. He's just doing. It's always so interesting how many facts are out there and a lot of people choose not to listen.
I just don't know how you have a group of guys up late at night and a pizza is ordered and nobody else grabs a slice.
Well, check this out, man. I've been out and about in different places. This is one of the reasons why New York is my favorite spot to visit.
Oh, because it doesn't sleep.
Because if you're hungry at 1 a.m, there's something out there. There's not just something. Anything you could think of is somewhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's in a street cart or it's a little shack in a wall or underneath a building or whatever, like there's something, you can get pho, you can get good street food, whatever. Other cities are not like that, man.
We live in one.
Oh yeah, we definitely live in one, but like Detroit was awful. And I had that same where like we had to order pizza and it was gross pizza, and we had to wait forever for it.
And that's what I'm saying. So for nobody else in the room to be like, hey Michael, can I have a piece of pizza?
To be fair, when 5 guys come to deliver your pizza, that's a red flag. So Michael must have been real fucking hungry. But I also think it's weird that like nobody there brought granola bars or like snack foods or nothing.
When you're hungry at 2 a.m, you don't want a snack bar.
I don't know. My go-to is peanut M&Ms because it's a little sweet, it's a little protein. But when 5 dudes are like, you know, like what the f***, like you're gonna eat that pizza? What did they do to it? That's what I need to know.
I don't know.
Now, as far as the flu game itself, I don't know how he did that.
I don't know.
Because we both had stomach flus before.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could barely get out of bed without shitting yourself or throwing up, let alone run up and down a basketball court, dunking, shooting, playing defense, sweating.
Yeah.
All that stuff, like, man.
And I definitely have never recovered in a day. Like, it's usually taken me out for several days.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
The guy must have really wanted to win. That's just straight up determination right there. There's a few moments in NBA history where I'm kind of like left like, what? Like, how did he do that? One of them was that game. Another one was Kobe, Achilles tear, or the full-on rupture. Came back on floor, okay, walked.
Can I guess your third one?
Hold on, yeah. Walked on the floor, shot his free throws, made them, and then walked off with a ruptured Achilles, okay? What's the third one?
Clay jumping up and down in the back, trying
Not
to...
just that, he went back on the floor. He was like, I'm ready to go. With a ruptured ACL, okay, the stabilizer in your knee, and he's bouncing up and down, just ready to go. Are you insane? So that's what I mean, like that type of mentality, that's rough, man. Like not everybody's got that. I think you know this already, but I love the guy, and I've always liked him. He's kind of like on a team like the Bulls. While I idolize MJ, I'm most like Steve Kerr. I want to be like Mike, but I understand that I am Steve Kerr. But I've always loved his mentality, the speech that he gave in Chicago when they were doing
That was a great speech.
The ring ceremony. You know what I mean? Like it's that kind of like sarcasm and sense of humor and his approach to things where it's almost like a Phil Jackson where it's like, hey, like let it come to you. It's all good. Not quite as hippie, but still fun, but competitive when you need to be. He's right there with you when you need him. I think that he's not just a great player, but like a great person. And I feel like that kind of thing shows. When you hear the two of them talk about their scuffle, hear Michael sincerely be like, yo, I felt bad, I felt like an ass. And then instead of Kerr blaming MJ, being like, yo, that was a dick move or whatever, he's just like, you know, like strangely enough, this was his takeaway from it, which is they became closer. It ended up making it to where in final moments of games, he knows, just like I was saying earlier, the shooters know how to spread that floor. And when the defense collapses on the main guy, the decoy, you kick it out. And I thought it was real interesting too that they highlighted that he wasn't having a great game in that first series. He was able to pull through and all that stuff, because that's kind of like what a role player is about. You know what I mean? Like you are there to shoot when needed, and it's hard. Your thoughts on Steve Kerr?
I just liked getting more of a background on him because he has been somebody that they have brought in for commentating a bunch through the whole series, but I didn't really know much more about him besides the fact that what he does now. So that was cool for me.
There was an article not too long ago talked about all of that stuff. It was cool seeing like little Steve really like get a feel for like what the guy was about. So it's like no wonder Kerr is who he is due to his upbringing.
But I just liked getting to see him have his moment and then getting to have his speech, and his speech was not cocky, it was funny. And I appreciated that. And I realized that I've harped on other people for being cocky, and I don't like that. Like, I just feel like there's a different delivery. Some people have it, some don't. And that's how he comes off, not full of himself.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I don't know how I ever come off as anything because everybody has like a different interpretation of things.
Yes.
I feel that I'm, like I said, more like a Steve Kerr, even though I really want to be like a Mike, like rough. And having that balance though, I think is great, where you can turn it on like an MJ when you need to, but still keep that level-headedness like a Kerr. I think that that's great, and I think that that has shown through his coaching career. It's hard though when you have like someone like a Draymond and stuff like that, you know what I mean? Or maybe a KD, where you got these guys kind of like butting heads like that. But the guy has just had an incredible career. He really did work for everything. Like he was practically a walk-on in college. It's crazy, man. Like it's really crazy to think where he came from to where he's at. Could you imagine? Because I think about that just on our front every so often when I just kind of sit back and think, man, like, man, I can't believe where I came from and where we're at right now. Like that's insane, right?
It's your Drake moment.
like the started from the bottom thing, I guess. But that's a cockier way of looking at it. You know what I mean? But it's just interesting to see, like, oh, I came from this. There's not really a clear reason why I should be here right now, other than things just kind of fell into place. And that's how I feel like he is like that kind of guy where it's like MJ kind of knew. Like, he was like, this is my path. Boom. And he took it. Kerr is kind of like, well, I'm just gonna wing it, you know what I mean? like let's just see what happens.
Two ways of living your life. Just like you said, being MJ, totally driven. This is what I want. This is what I'm going to get. And then there are people, and that's the kind of life that I have led to. Like, I am a Kerr. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna go with it. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't. I'll do the best with what I got. Like,
exactly. There's moments for MJ, but otherwise, like, balance it out. You know. And I think that those two especially were great teammates together, which goes to our next topic, which was actually chemistry.
Oh, some people have it.
And some people don't.
I was like...
Because that was up, okay? I'm trying to keep my nose together here, folks. I'm trying.
I'm gonna redo that part.
No, it was perfect. It's all good, okay? That could be a meme, whatever. I don't care. So chemistry is hard to find, especially with a team, and there's like 12 guys. You got 2 different units plus mixing and matching. Chemistry on the floor is super difficult. Some people gel real quickly. Some people never gel. This team had great chemistry on the floor, which I think is very, I don't want to say impressive, but that's the only word that comes to mind. I just think that it's awesome because Jordan was hard to deal with. You got guys like Luke Longley that really don't like Jordan, yet, I mean, the two of them, great chemistry on the floor. Luke knew what Jordan expected. He did it. Jordan knew what Luke could do. He dished it. That second to last finals or playoff match in general, like, you could really see Jordan coming into a playmaker, much different than the first three-peat where he was the player. And so you're seeing him dish to Steve, to Luke, to Harper, Scotty, all that stuff. It was awesome. That's what people see when they see this new era Warriors team, is that type of chemistry where it's like, are they even running plays? They seem so fluid. They just are just moving. They all know where each other's going to be. That's great coaching, great chemistry. It's just amazing to watch, and it's rare. So new shoes, right? This is going back to 98. They won an NBA Finals game against one of the best teams, or clearly the best team of the West. And they didn't just beat them, they clobbered them. They only let them get 54 points in an entire game.
That was the only one. I know I was saying earlier, like, everything only seemed off by 1 or 2 points. This one was clearly the game where...
Oh my God. And I had noticed while we were watching it, MJ's wearing his new shoes. He's wearing the Jordan 14s. He must have had a moment. Because, like, there's a time, I've told you this plenty of times, you look good, you feel good, you play good. There were samples too. How the whole shoe thing works is they design your shoes. You get to collaborate and involve in that. Like, they'll show you the sketches. You'll discuss being like, I don't like this or I like that or whatever. There was a clip that MJO23 Dan put on, Marvin, he put it on Instagram, and it was a little video of MJ talking to Tinker about the 6, and they were showing the sketches of the 6s while he had this 5. And he said, yeah, can we get rid of this? I want a clean toe. And it's stuff like that where you go from that sketch to finally getting the shoe in hand, and they literally were like delivering like, hey, can you wear this in practice? Let me know what you think so that we can tweak anything before the shoe rolls out. They give this man his 14s. He was like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna wear these tonight. And Tinker, I remember there's interviews with Tinker being like, nobody was supposed to see those.
Do you think Tinker spent the first half of that game like going, oh my gosh, what if something busts out here or there, or...
Yes, not only did Tinker do that, but probably everybody behind the brand was like, what are we gonna do?
If he pulls a Zion before there was a Zion?
It's not even that, because this is pre-social media, but everybody's still looking at the guy's feet. So like, we can't screenshot the TV because we don't have a phone or whatever, but that's the thing that everybody was talking about the next day at school, being like, what were those? You know, and everybody's like, I don't know. It was awesome. It was so awesome. Has nothing to do with really the documentary. It wasn't even a topic. I just noticed that the day that they clobbered...
You made it a topic.
I did make it a topic. The day that they clobbered the Utah Jazz was also the day that Jordan bust out the 14s. Which brings me to my other weird topic, the NWO thing. They really shoehorned that in there because they didn't have to talk about it, but it was so interesting that Dennis decided in the middle of a playoff run...
I'm gonna be a wrestler.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that I was heavy into wrestling at that time. Like, as a fan, the NWO... Wolfpack. Woo! Sting. Man, that was my favorite guy because he looked like the Crow. But I just remember that whole era. It was super weird.
Do you think Dennis Rodman is one of the reasons why there's contracts are written up the way they are now? Because like I know that they're basically not allowed to do any kinds of sports besides golf.
Well, I mean, Jordan had that first. He had the for the love of the game clause in his contract where he can play anytime, anywhere if he saw fit. As far as Dennis goes, I mean, I don't know, because a lot of the rule changes and things like that, whether they be pre-game outfit and stuff like that, like the dress code or whatever, like that's from like Iverson and all that. But this era really did shape the current generation, which is a further topic, but like it really did shape what basketball is right now, both for the good and for the bad. However, what I thought was very interesting is that Phil was kind of getting on Rodman in that practice footage. And then MJ quietly but vocally it felt like he was defending him, being like, come on, Dennis. And I just kind of was like, Dennis Rodman, when you talk to him or see his interviews, he says that they don't talk or anything. Like they never talked off the court. They weren't friends, none of that stuff. But it's weird to see kind of the leader of the group and the outcast of the group and the leader being like, hey, no, you are important here.
Yeah.
Don't lose focus.
Which kudos to Jordan, since I'm always like, why is he so mean to his fellow teammates in practice and whatnot? But I feel like maybe in that moment he realized that Rodman he's a sensitive soul. Mm-hmm. And so like if his father-like figure is chastising him in front of the group, he's kind of like, no, that's cool.
Yeah, well that's something that I think is underrated with MJ, is that he was only really hard on players that needed it. Like he knows what Dennis is about. He knew what Scotty's about. He was hard on Scott Burrell or whatever because Burrell's a nice guy. And guess what, man? When we're facing Karl Malone and dudes chucking elbows at you and stuff, like slick ones too, and he's a big dude. Karl Malone is intense, man. You're soft. Like you smiling, it's not gonna fly. Like you're gonna have to beef up a little bit. Maybe, Luke didn't like it. Maybe Scott Burrell was so nice that he didn't mind it. Whatever. It worked, man. Now, I don't want to spend a hell of time on this. I just thought it was mad funny that the media was literally chasing Rodman afterwards. He had to like act like a little kid, being like, okay, so they're over there, so we're gonna go over here, peek out the door, boom, run, and then they're all start running with heavy ass equipment, expensive ass equipment. Yeah. I've told you this in private, and I'm gonna just say it out loud now. And your look at the camera is oh great, what's he about to say? I fucking hate the media, okay? And I hate that sometimes we're referred to as media, okay, as WearTesters. When we're invited to certain events, we're in the media category, and I'm not that kind of person. I'm not a vulture, which is what I consider media people to be. They're just buzzards, just waiting to pick off pieces and stir up trouble. I hate the media. I hate sneaker media. I hate real media, because like when it comes time, like this is a real You're KD, okay? The PR person that's in charge of the media being like, hey, KD's sitting here. He's got X amount of time. So get in line, get your questions ready. And then as soon as we get over there, guess what the media goes and does? All the sneaker media. All of them rush in, okay? There's no line, there's no waiting. They're all in his face and they're all talking to him at the same time, trying to get their thing. And I'm just sitting in the back being like, this is not what we were told to do. And I fucking hate that.
Was that last night? There was one of them where that's how the doc started out, was they were questioning.
That was MJ, yeah.
And
he just wouldn't answer anything.
And then they got told, like, thanks a lot, because he just left, and they, like, blamed it all on the one guy.
Yeah, he asked a question, and he was like, man, I'm out of here. Scotty's back. I remember it being a problem. I'm glad, though, that he was able to overcome that. He had to keep getting stretched out in between, like, timeouts and stuff like that, and I remember, I didn't know if he was going to come back. But again, I'm glad that he did. I'm glad he didn't sit himself on the bench like he did that one time when he didn't get a shot. I'm glad that it wasn't the migraine game again. He really was just like, F it, man. It didn't matter what his pay was, all that stuff. Like he went out there and he got it. I was happy.
I feel like the way that he has been portrayed through the whole thing, it almost feels like I'm surprised he was with the Bulls for so long. It has not been a beautiful light shed upon him.
I understand what you're saying, but to me, because I feel the same way about how like Jordan came out before the doc aired being like, I'm worried that people are going to think I'm an ass. And to me, I think like all of my admiration for the guy is even stronger now. And same thing with Scotty. I wholeheartedly love how and who he is as far as what we've seen, because it does take a lot to be able to be quiet. It's really difficult to sit there and take a lot of and to not say anything and just to fall in line. And then it takes a lot to stand up and be like, well, f this I'm done with this, to then earning your spot as the number one on the team. And I understand when you get, I get what Phil was doing too. The Kukoc was on a roll. They've done these plays before, blah, blah, blah. And he did hit the shot. But I understand what Scotty is going through, being like, but I'm the man now. If Michael was here, there would be no question. It wouldn't be but Kukoc just hit these shots. No. If MJ wants to give up the ball to Kukoc because that's the best option at that point, fine. But other than that, that never would have happened. Scotty, I've said this many times and I will continue to say it. I feel like he is the most disrespected player of all time. And this documentary series just proves that.
Yeah.
I don't think, I know what you mean. I know that it looks like Scotty was whining, Scotty was crying, Scotty was hurt, Scotty was this, Scotty was that, Scotty was selfish. No.
I'm not saying that I feel that way. I'm saying that's how they portrayed him through.
But that's the thing. It's all open to interpretation. Mm-hmm. And I don't interpret the doc like that.
Okay.
I interpret this as Scotty did exactly what Scotty should have done. He was underpaid on top of that, and he kept quiet for the longest. I have nothing but respect for the guy, man. I probably would have sat out too. And I have even more respect for the guy when he says, hey, that was a bad call on my part, but if we were to do it over again, those were my emotions and it probably wouldn't have changed. That's a man just owning up to being like, I f***ed up, but I probably would up every time. Now, the last shot, that shot is just forever in my mind. I even talked about it in the last time that the shoe retroed. The whole intro, I broke down it smells like, you know what I mean? You know, that was something that forever ingrained. Like, what a way to go, you know? Like, that is glorious of glory moments that you can ever have. Like, what a way to really put a stamp on, I'm the greatest, without ever saying it. You just showed it. He never had to come out in a press release and be like, I'm the greatest player in the world.
Because he has everybody else arguing it for him.
No, but that's what I mean, though. That's how you know you're the GOAT.
He's like that boy band, a BTS or whatever, where they don't have to do anything. All the fans do all the work for them.
Hey, it is what it is, though, man. When you work that hard to be that good, your game speaks for itself. He said that many times. He wouldn't have none of these endorsements if his game was not like what it was. That shot just, that was incredible, man. It was incredible. It was not a push off. I even joke around about the push off, but you can clearly see when it's in slow motion that his hand just brushed down. It didn't push. He did not Reggie that Reggie pushed. Reggie ran into him and then shoved him away.
It looked like you and me when we play.
Yeah, but you're Reggie. You know what I mean? Like, you rough as
I am.
So
you're everywhere.
Something that I think is interesting is the could they have gone for more?
I do think it's crazy because that's what we do. Is if something's hot, you run with it
you make
until
a sequel.
you run it into the ground, and for them not to do just one more year
willingly, but then to know after the fact that they offered Phil, at least the owner of the team, Reinsdorf.
Yeah.
He offered Phil, being like, hey, but Phil seemed real over it.
I think it was more of it was so publicly known what had been said to him.
That's what I'm saying, is that you've said enough to the point to where Jackson said it in the interview where it was just like, you know what, I don't want to put Krause through that. And this is how respectful Jackson is to say that about the guy that's really just on you.
Which, okay, that was what I asked for. In like the first time we sat down is I want to know how we end up to the point where Krause does not like him.
We still don't know.
No, I know. Where is that?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't think you can even tell that story because it would be one-sided today.
Yeah.
It just really would be. I don't think Phil would lie about it or anything, but it would be through Phil's eyes. I just found it very surprising that he would sit there and be like, hey, I don't want to do that to Jerry Krause. And on top of that, it seemed like I said, he seemed like he was over it. Being like, not only do I want to put Krause through that, but I don't want to put myself through Krause for one more season. I'm done. I feel like almost the owner, Reinsdorf, was trying to pitch it as if this was all Jackson's fault at the end of the day because we offered him one more year. That's how I took it. It may be because they showed MJ the iPad footage again, just like MJ said, just like you said, which is from the beginning. It was vocal. It was said, it was done. So why are you now letting me know this? Yeah. It doesn't matter. And that's my whole thing, which is like, could they have gone for 7? Honestly, I don't know. I think that they were the best of the best, but I think eventually someone would stop them. Whether it was San Antonio or it was LA.
You don't think that the Pacers would have gotten them the next season?
You know what? I don't know. Because I don't think that the Pacers even had, because they never won a ring afterwards. That was their only moment.
Okay.
So I feel like they're just kind of out of the discussion.
You definitely think that they would have at least gotten to the finals.
I think they would have at least gotten to the finals, but I mean, I don't know. Your competition elevates against you. Maybe that Indiana team played that good because it was Chicago, but maybe they couldn't against New York or whatever. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, it's up in the air. It's always a what if.
Yeah. I think the thing about Michael, though, and why he is everybody's GOAT is because he got to leave on a high note then. Granted, he comes back and there's the Wizards and all that, but if they had stuck around and done that seventh...
He did say that he wanted someone to take it from him.
He wanted to? Because, well, no, because when he was talking with...
He didn't think anyone could take it from him, but he wanted someone to take it from him. That's what he had said in a press conference.
Okay, well, when
Being
he
like,
was...
give them the opportunity to lose. Don't just take it away from them.
When he was driving in his car, he was saying he wanted to leave on a high note. So, but again, people change how they view things.
Because he, like I say, he came back.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have heard his thoughts. Actually, that would have been a nice addition to the docuseries had they asked him about then the Wizards run. So I really liked the series. I thought it was fantastic. It was nice to be able to share a chunk of my childhood that you were not a part of with you, and it was cool to hear your thoughts on it all.
Thanks.
No problem. Yeah, even though we don't agree and all that stuff, because that's what people do, you know. I'm not gonna chew you out or anything, or act like you're sensitive, because that's what the internet does. But yeah, it was interesting to be able to hear an outside perspective.
And I got plenty of that.
Definitely. So thank you so much for watching. Thanks for sticking with us through this, I don't know what to call it, our thoughts on. It's not really a recap, but just our thoughts on the whole thing. And I loved reading all of your guys' thoughts as well. So thank you so much for all the support. And until next time, guys, have a good one.
That's a wrap.
Cut the check.